Hello and welcome to another episode of Adrienne Ross Squared, squaring off from A to Z. I know it's been a minute. I've been so busy, but I've been thinking about you and thinking about what I wanted to bring to you here on this channel. It was just about finding time. I knew that I wanted to talk to you about something that is a buzz right now, something that's not new, but since President Trump has been inaugurated, it's been a major source of conversation, even more than it had been. January 20th is when he made his inauguration speech, and he talked about this thing, 3 letters, which do big things. Those letters, can you guess? DEI. So we're going to have real talk. If you've been around the Adrienne Ross show for years, before that show on my main channel was rebranded to Sports and Culture, you're used to hearing me talk about all kinds of stuff. In fact, I did a video. I had 2 guests on. When was it? Is it over a year ago now? A year and a half ago? I'm trying to remember. But I had 2 guests, 2 teachers in the same school in Florida, one Black, one Hispanic. And we had a conversation when the Supreme Court got people upset because it said no more to affirmative action. So we got all into how this impacts higher education, etc. And we got into quite a conversation, a good conversation. I'm going to get down into this. I'm going to show you a snippet of what President Trump said during his inauguration. Going to show you some of the wording of his executive order concerning DEI. But first, I'm going to share a story with you, a personal story from my own life. April 2025 will be 3 years since I had brain surgery. I've talked a little bit about it over on the main channel. Brain surgery. Now, several months before then, I found out that I had to have the surgery. Then it took a long time before they would approve the surgery. And because I don't have medical insurance, I have Christian healthcare ministries, which is not insurance, which we have Christians sharing the bills. And so hospital was like, we don't usually do that. So it took months before it was like, okay, let's do this. And then surgery actually ended up being really quick after that, like 4 weeks or so, maybe, if that. And it was so fast, and I'll tell you why. But first, you have to know that when I was told, yeah, you're going to have the surgery. I mean, you don't have to have the surgery, but it ain't going to be good if you don't have the surgery, because this is why you're having all these other issues. There's an adenoma, a tumor, a benign tumor on your in your pituitary gland, which is the master gland. Because it's the master gland, if it's not functioning right, if there's a tumor on it, all that, you end up having all these other problems. So there was this weight gain. They call it Cushing's. So there was the weight gain. There was all of a sudden you've got diabetes. Numbers way high. All of a sudden you've got high blood pressure. There was just several things. So when I found out I had to have it, I had a lot to think about. I had to make the decision, all of that. I asked tons of questions, because I always do. But I have to tell you what I did not do. Not one time did I ask, hey, can we make sure that the neurosurgeon is Black? I never asked that. I never said, hey, can we make sure the neurosurgeon is a woman? You know, naming the groups that somehow we feel need the help of a policy to be uplifted. I never said, hey, can I make sure you give me, I don't know, a gay guy, or give me a lesbian or anything? I never asked those questions. You know what I wanted? I know you do. I don't care where you say you stand on DEI. You know exactly what you wanted for that surgery, whether the surgery was for you, whether the surgery was for your child, whether the surgery was just for someone you love. You wanted to know, how good is the doctor who's going to be performing surgery and in my case, busting through my nostrils to get to my brain. And then when they start telling you what could go wrong, well, you could have a brain bleed. You could end up opening your eyes after the surgery and not being able to see. It's not likely, but it's a possibility. You could die. I mean, whole spinal issue. I mean, they gotta tell you everything, and it doesn't sound good at all. And especially after you hear all that, I don't care. I'm not asking you for the gay doctor, the lesbian doctor, the black doctor. I'm not asking for the woman doctor. I'm asking you for the best doctor available. Period. That's exactly what you would want. That's exactly what you would want for your child or your spouse or your sibling or hopefully your neighbor. I didn't ask for the DEI doctor. I didn't ask, who did you hire because your policy said you had to hire that person. I didn't care. And then when he says to me, if you want to take time and think about it and wait, you absolutely can do that. He said, but I want to be upfront. This was the neurosurgeon. I want to be upfront with you. I have taken another position. So if you take, I don't know, he was leaving pretty quickly. That's why I had it with like 4 weeks, I think, after they finally said, okay, let's go ahead. He said, because I'm taking the position and I'm going to be gone whenever, I don't know, 6 weeks or whatever it was. 8 weeks, 6 weeks, I don't know, soon. And he said, but if you want me to do it, now this is someone they spoke very well of him. Everybody likes him, I was told. He was very good. He's done these surgeries all the time. If you want him to do it, then you got to hurry up and do it. And then I had to follow up my initial appointment with him with the appointment with the ENT, because since they go through the nostrils, because of where the pituitary is located in the brain, because they bust up through both your nostrils, I still don't sound the same as I used to sound. I'm still dealing with junk you don't want to hear about in my nostrils. Trust me, you don't want to hear. But they need the surgery is done together, ENT and the neurosurgeon. So when I go to leave there and go to the appointment with the ENT, he's talking to me. He's telling me, I really highly recommend you do this, because I'm like, are you really sure I need to? He's talking to me and he's telling me, I've done this surgery countless times. He told me the amount of times, I don't remember, with the doctor, the neurosurgeon. I've done this tons of times. Now, if I've never done it with the new person coming in, but if you want to wait, and you don't want to do it right away, and you want to wait and have the new person do it, then I'll be doing it with that doctor. But I can tell you, this doctor and I have done this together so many times. He was like, in fact, I think he said that day he had done one, earlier that day or earlier that week, he had done a number of them, something like that. He had just, done something. It wasn't that day because I was with the neurosurgeon, but I think it was that week. So I was like, I don't want to be a guinea pig. Like, I know these two mesh. Like, I don't want to get somebody in there working with him. They don't get along. I'm out and they're in my brain. No, thank you. And I didn't ask that doctor. I know you've worked with him so many times, but is there a woman doctor you can get? Is there a lesbian or gay or whatever, the he, she pronouns or the black? I didn't care. How many times y'all did this together? What's your success rate on this thing? How good are you guys? That's all I cared about. And a lot of the people, the warriors for DEI, they're lying if they tell you that their main focus when it comes to their own lives is something other than who's the best you got. They're lying. If you are sending your child away to college and you put them on the plane or on a missions trip across going to Africa, I've done that too. Meaning I've went myself. I haven't sent any kids over, but I went myself. If you're putting your kid on that plane, you know who you want. I don't necessarily care if the pilot is a woman, is black, is whatever other identity. Is this pilot trained? How many flying hours does this pilot have? How good is this pilot? Is the pilot an alcoholic? Might the pilot be drunk or high? Or you hope you don't get to interview the pilot. You're hoping this person is the best person possible, highly qualified. Even as a teacher, we would have to always answer that question every year on this thing. We would have to fill out, are you highly qualified? But now everybody wants to talk like DEI is the most important thing. And that if Trump says we're cutting DEI, then there's something wrong with him. It's not about him. To me, his thinking is common sense. So I'm going to tell you right now why DEI is dangerous. And I'm going to tell you more than one reason why DEI is dangerous, actually. I'm going to tell you why. 2 reasons. It might end up being more, but 2 reasons. And the first one is what I just said, because you want the best for the job. Whatever the job is, you want the best. So first, from here, I should say, let's listen to what President Trump said during his inauguration speech that really upset some folks who are still upset about it. I'm over here at WTHR on YouTube.
This week, I will also end the government policy of trying to socially engineer race and gender into every aspect of public and private life. We will forge a society that is colorblind and merit-based.
And then just a few days after that, he said this, I believe, speaking to the World Economic Forum.
My administration has taken action to abolish all discriminatory diversity, equity, and inclusion nonsense. And these are policies that were absolute nonsense throughout the government and the private sector. With the recent yet somewhat unexpected great Supreme Court decision just made, America will once again become a merit-based country. You have to hear that word, merit-based country.
And that has caused all kinds of stuff to hit the fan. So he has said, I have taken action to make America merit-based. And he did follow up because he had an executive order regarding DEI. I will not read all of this from whitehouse.gov, but I will just share this little bit. Ending radical and wasteful government DEI programs and preferencing. This was first day, executive order January 20th. And again, not reading all of this, but you'll get the idea. By the authority vested in me as president, by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered. Section 1, purpose and policy. The Biden administration forced illegal and immoral discrimination programs going by the name Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, DEI, into virtually all aspects of the federal government in areas ranging from airline safety to the military. This was a concerted effort stemming from President Biden's first day in office when he issued Executive Order 13985, quote, advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities through the federal government. Well, the order went on to say, pursuant to the Executive Order 13985 and follow-on orders, nearly every federal agency and entity submitted equity action plans to detail the ways they have furthered DEI's infiltration of the federal government. The public release of these plans demonstrated immense public waste and shameful discrimination. That ends today. Americans deserve a government committed to serving every person with equal dignity and respect. and to extending precious taxpayer resources only on making America great. So he went on to say, I'll just read a little bit more. Section 2, implementation. The director of the Office of Management and Budget, OMB, assisted by the Attorney General and the director of the Office of Personnel Management, OPM, shall coordinate the termination of all discriminatory programs, including illegal DEI and diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, DEIA mandates, policy programs, preferences, and activities in the federal government under whatever name they appear. And then he goes on to talk about how that will be implemented, but I will stop there. But yeah, he wasn't playing. He said what he meant. And again, some people don't like it. Well, diversity, I just wanted to be able to give you definitions of these things and make sure we're on the same page. Wikipedia, as much as you can believe Wikipedia, it does say that diversity, equity, inclusion are organizational frameworks which seek to promote the fair treatment and full participation of all people, particularly groups who have historically been underrepresented or subject to discrimination on the basis of identity and disability. So it goes on to define diversity, and it says that it does have to do with identity politics. It includes gender, ethnicity, sexual orientation, disability, age, culture, class, religion, or opinion. Equity refers to fairness and justice, and inclusion refers to creating an organizational culture that creates an experience where, quote, all employees feel their voices will be heard and a sense of belonging and integration. But you heard it. It talks about the fair treatment and full participation of all people, but it seeks to do that it seeks to make up for discrimination by then discriminating. And you can't do that. Now, I will say this. I do believe there was a time in our history where affirmative action, or DEI, if you wanted to call it that, was important. I do not believe that in 2025 we are still in those times. I don't. I believe that we've moved on, and in many cases, as we can see here, many cases it has become a situation of reverse discrimination. And so we see it in colleges, for example, where Asian students, for example, are not given opportunities even though they have the qualifications, but they don't get that opportunity. We also have evidence that affirmative action often hurts, because if you take people who are like say Ivy League schools, if you take people, well, whatever color, because I mean, statistics show that the biggest, the largest recipient of such programs are not Black people, as some people think, but women. So whatever the case may be, whoever it is, if you take someone who's not qualified and you put them in, like say, an Ivy League school, they tend to not do well and they may drop out. Whereas if they are in an institution where they can flourish, then you get more people in, I do believe the studies were showing, in the STEM professions. So, and that's what we talk a lot about in school. We talk a lot about raising up people for STEM. Bottom line is that we should be living in a culture and a society that is, as Trump said, merit-based. And again, if I harken back to my own story, I want merit. I don't care that, seriously, and I'm not trying to be rude, I don't care when it's time to go into my brain about what happened to your great grandma. I care about whether you are qualified to perform brain surgery on me, or to teach my children, or to fly that plane. That's what I care about. That's number one. So there's danger there. Here's the second danger, which is different, but still is dangerous. When people know that there are DEI policies at work, it undermines people who are qualified, who are Black or women or Hispanic or gay or lesbian or whatever the case may be, it plants the seed of doubt about that individual. That brain surgeon who is Black and got there based on merit is every bit as qualified as the white person. But very often people don't see it that way because in their mind, they're constantly thinking DEI. I've heard it. I've heard conservatives, I'm a conservative. I've heard even conservatives say things like, if they don't like what somebody said or what somebody did or whatever, first DEI hire, usually it's a woman or it's a Black person or it's a DEI. And that's so unfair because not every Black face is a DEI hire. But when you say, like President Biden has said, he specifically said his vice president was going to be a Black woman. That's the one he wanted. And that to me is so disrespectful because this is a country, first of all, you're supposed to be running. So we need the best people for the job. And if a woman who is Black as well is the best person for the job, then there should have been no need for you to say, we're going to hire a Black woman. Just hire the most qualified person who fits the job. Like all of a sudden now everything is DEI. And then we got to see Kamala Harris, former vice president. And we really started to say, okay, I guess that was a DEI hire because of the product that we saw. But in general, it just diminishes people. Oh, you're there because you're Black. Oh, you're there because you're a woman. Oh, and that's not always the case. And now we have a situation with the horrible 2 plane crashes. But the one in DC, my heart goes out. First of all, obviously, to those who are lost, my heart goes out to family members. But the conversation then became, I don't know exactly what Trump said, but apparently he said something that has people saying he blamed DEI. You saw in his own statement. Did I even read that part of the statement? There's something that I read about his comment about DEI where he talked about, yeah, I did read it. Let me find it. Okay, yeah, I read it in his in the executive order. He said the Biden administration forced illegal and immoral discrimination programs going by the name DEI into virtually all aspects of government in areas ranging from airline safety to the military. So then we have this plane crash, and that's probably not the time to bring it up, I guess. I don't know. But he said that, whether it's true or not, I don't know. But we do know that airlines, because I've done this before in my work, in my job. I've read the policies of airlines and other places that have to do with DEI. That has become priority. So now when something happens, it's those DEI hires. And then you've got people who are qualified, but they're getting pointed to, or people who went to college and busted their tails and they worked hard in high school to get to college. But people are like, oh, indeed, she's affirmative action. Or I've heard people even say, well, because they're pushing these policies, they start to think, well, if I get on a plane and I see the pilot there when I'm coming in, or the co-pilot, whatever, and their X, Y, and Z group, identity politics group, they're like, I don't want to fly. Oh, I don't want that surgery, because did he really get that job? And that's so unfair to the person who merits being there. That's why what Trump says is so important. And I have to wonder about people who are offended by that. Do you really believe that you got everywhere you got and accomplished everything you did because the color of your skin or your sex? Is that what you believe? Do you not believe that you are smart, that you are intelligent? Yes, that you have the favor of God. That's what I believe too. What some people are calling privilege, whether it's white privilege or whether it's DEI or all this stuff. I'm like, and meanwhile, Jesus is going, hello, I opened that door. I made the way. I planted that idea in your mind. I gave you that gift and that talent. So yeah, if there's any kind of favor, it's God favor. I'm not going to deny that now. Bring it on. I'm the recipient of that. But these people who are so upset that he's talking about merit, you either think that there is no way to get anywhere in this country except through a DEI, except somebody, because you cannot do it on your own by the grace of God. Don't believe the lie. Don't believe the lie. But it plants those seeds into people's minds, and it's unfair to qualify merit people who have earned things. So that's my problem with DEI. And though I say there was a time when I'm like, okay, let's do it, but we're in 2025 now. And then we've turned it into a reverse thing. And yet people quote constantly Dr. King. I'm not, now President Trump mentioned a colorblind society. I've never been in favor of color blindness because of course I see your color. I mean, God created it and it's beautiful. I'm not into never mentioning color, never mentioning race. I don't, there's no, I'm not so, I don't got a problem with race and color and stuff. So I don't mind mentioning it. I don't have a problem with you seeing that I'm black. My problem is if that's all you see about me. It should be one of many things that we obviously notice and that God created. It's beautiful. No need to pretend it doesn't exist, but we should not be judging based on that. We should not be hiring based on that in 99.999% of the time. What do you mean, Adrienne? You just said all that. Now you're going to say not 100%. Let me tell you where I think it's okay to consider race or sex in hiring. I believe that if the job calls for that, then then you look for the best person you need. So for example, if I have an agency where I am helping women who have been beaten and battered and bruised by men all their lives, and they're psychologically, physically damaged, and I have a position that calls for someone to help nurture these women, that job may call for a woman because a man coming in to do that job, it's not going to do that job. The women are not able to receive from him because of what they've been through. So the job calls for a woman. That makes sense to me. Or if I've got a group down, some community center that's in the hood, where if a white, maybe some areas of Harlem and white dudes go in, if they go down that street in Harlem, they likely to get beat down. That's just not, then I have these, young black men and white dude coming in there, may not make it in. I got to consider that for that job if the job calls for it. But just to have a blanket DEI policy, see, that could work in reverse, where you could say, okay, well, here are these women and they have been abused and battered by men all their lives and they don't trust men. And we're trying to help them get past that. But because I have a policy that says I have to have a certain amount of men, now I got to hire a man. See how that works? That would be foolish. What you want is, what do you need for the job? And then let's get the most qualified person for that job. Now, that's how this stuff should work. What do we need? And it's the same way, like for those who think I'm being unfair because of the anti-DEI, it's the same thing when it comes to, for example, okay, so we need, I don't know, whatever the job is, it doesn't even matter. And a lot of people are like, he had a higher score than this person, yet they hired this person. I think that whatever your criteria is, and it could be all around. It could be, we want somebody who's done some field work in it. We want somebody who's got a good score on it, not necessarily the highest score, because we're looking at the whole range of skills. So we want some experience. We want to look at the test scores. We want to look at, how relatable you are. We want to, like, all those things are in the job description. And then I hire the best person for everything that I need. But just to say it's got to be a Black person, it's got to be a Hispanic person, it's got to be a lesbian, or it's got to be a white person, whatever it is, merit-based. That's where we want to get. And if you're bothered by that, I got to wonder, what do you think of yourself? Do you really credit DEI for everything you've accomplished? Or do you blame racism for everything you have not accomplished? Or sexism, or whatever the case may be. So again, I said what I had to say. I know that this is the best way as a society, because again, brain surgery, don't give me the DEI person. And I certainly don't want to be doubting you because of this policy. People should be respected and not looked at like, remember that policy? I hope he know what he's doing. Let's just do right by people, by society, by companies, all of it. So anyway, I am who I am by the grace of God, number one, and by hard work. And that's where we should be anyway. So those are my thoughts. I welcome your thoughts. Again, I say, I feel like it's common sense to me, or you just don't believe in yourself, or you think America is just such a horrible place that there's no way possible that people can be treated fairly based on merit. Is that what we're saying? Is that what we're saying in 2025? We already done had the first Black president, right? Or half Black president or whatever. Although they say Clinton was the first Black president, that's a whole different story. We've had a Black vice president. Of course, Biden told us that was going to be the case. Anyway, you get my point. Those are my thoughts. I welcome yours. Be respectful in the comments, of course. And subscribe. Make sure you subscribe. Yes. If you have not subscribed to Adrienne Ross Squared, please do so. And also like, comment, again, like I said, share. And if you have not subscribed to the main channel, The Adrienne Ross Show, the link will be in this description of this video. Go check it out. All righty. I will catch you next time, God willing. God bless you abundantly.